Hello, and the subject of the reflection this morning is a passage from Exodus. Exodus chapter 18, verses 1 to 20. And it concerns possibly one of the most famous visits from the in-laws in history. When we think of visits from the in-laws, we might all sorts of pictures come to mind, maybe strained relationships, or oh no, are they coming? But this relationship between Moses and his father-in-law, Jethro, is actually always seems to me quite a positive and a constructive one. And Jethro, who's really plays quite a formative part in what happens and in his advice and his support for Moses. So how did Moses come to be Jethro's son-in-law? Well, we have to go back right to the beginning, almost the beginning of Exodus, really. Moses in Egypt, of course, at the time. Has to get out of Egypt because he kills an Egyptian. He's involved in some struggle, and he kills an Egyptian, buries the body, and it's not going to go down well. So off he pops, and he goes to Midian, and when he's there, he comes across the 7 daughters of Jethro. So he's got 7 girls, and Jethro is the priest of Midian, and the 7 daughters are drawing water at a well. And Moses is there, and some shepherds come along, start making a bit of a nuisance of themselves, and harassing the daughters and so on. And anyway, Moses is the man of the hour, and he sees them off. And the daughters take him back to the father's house. And the father, who's, quite enamoured with what Moses has done, gives him one of his daughters, Zipporah, in marriage. So that's how Moses became married to Zipporah, and thereby Jethro became his father-in-law. And from that point, of course, God calls Moses to, this almighty great commission, which Moses wasn't that mad about, really, to go back to Egypt and bring the Israelites, the chosen people, out of Egypt and take them on this incredible journey. But Moses does take up that commission, that task. And so Moses has to go back to Jethro at some point then later and say, I've got to go back to Egypt because there are people there that I need to look out for. So Jethro agreed, even though he's his father-in-law, he's married to his daughter, and he says goodbye to him. It's a sort of positive interaction. And so later on then we come to our passage. So Jethro visits Moses at a later stage, and he comes along with Moses' wife Zipporah, because she'd been left behind when Moses went back to Egypt. So the passage, Exodus chapter 18, verses 1 to 20. Moses' father Jethro, the priest of Midian, heard about everything that God had done for Moses and the people of Israel when he led them out of Egypt. So he came to Moses, bringing with him Moses' wife Zipporah, who had been left behind, and Gershom and Eleazar, her 2 sons. Moses had said, I have been a foreigner in a strange land, so he had named one son Gershom. He had also said, the God of my father helped me and saved me from being killed by the king of Egypt, and so he had named the other son Eleazar. Jethro came with Moses' wife and her 2 sons into the desert, where Moses was camped at the holy mountain. He had sent word to Moses that they were coming. So Moses went out to meet him, bowed before him, and kissed him. They asked about each other's health, and then went into Moses' tent. Moses told Jethro everything that the Lord had done to the king and the people of Egypt in order to rescue the Israelites. He also told him about the hardships the people had faced on the way and how the Lord had saved them. When Jethro heard all of this, he was happy and said, Praise the Lord, who saved you from the king and the people of Egypt. Praise the Lord, who saved his people from slavery. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all the gods, because he did this when the Egyptians treated the Israelites with such contempt. Then Jethro brought an offering to be burnt whole, and other sacrifices to be offered to God. And Aaron and all the leaders of Israel went with him to eat the sacred meal as an act of worship. So I always think it's a really positive visit, isn't it? Jethro kind of gets it, doesn't he? He understands, can see why Moses had to go back to Egypt, and he's really full of praise, isn't he, for the whole thing, and praise the Lord for saving the people, bringing them out of Egypt. And of course, Moses has been, you could say, quite formative in that he's leading that whole move out of Egypt. So maybe Jethro again, just as he was when Moses, was the man of the hour when Jethro's daughters were being messed about by the well. You get the sense that Jethro respects Moses, don't you? Here, his son-in-law, and you get the sense of a really positive, formative relationship. Later on, in the same chapter, Jethro, I'm not going to talk about it here because it might be the subject of maybe tomorrow's reflection. Jethro goes on to give Moses some really sound advice. So there we are, Moses and his father-in-law, a positive in-law relationship, and a really important, supportive one as Moses carries out this incredible task that God has given him.